I've shot through rain that felt like nails, across rooftops greased with pigeon poop and bad decisions, through the last inch of a man's prayer. I don't miss. Until tonight. Cathedral glass paints Damian Voss in shards of saintly blues and infernal reds, like heaven and hell are splitting the bill. My crosshairs rest between his eyes. A half-ounce pressure from my finger and the alpha mob boss drops, the city exhales, and my bank account sings. Then he looks up, not at the skylight, not at the rifle, through the scope, through me. His gaze lands with the weight of a verdict. My wolf, who has survived on scraps and threats for 26 years, rises like a tide and whispers one word that detonates my life. Mate. My breath gutters. My finger freezes. The trigger becomes a confession I can't finish. Below, Damian tilts his head, all amused sin, and steps into the dead center of my crosshair like he's offering me his heart on a silver platter. I try to pull. My body refuses. I, Sable Quinn, the girl who fixes problems that breathe, just fell in love with my target at first sight and gave fate the finger. If you believe destiny can be cruel and hilarious, hit subscribe. You're about to watch me try to murder my soulmate. Chapter 1. People think assassins drink whiskey. I drink oat milk lattes because lactose makes my wolf cranky, and I prefer my murder with foam art. Magda slides a vellum envelope across a marble bar that smells like spilled gin and old secrets. She's wearing widow black and a smile that never reaches her eyes. For you, my little thorn. I flip the seal. Vellum isn't really vellum. It's soaked in reagent and spellwork, faint enough to pass as expensive stationery. Inside, a dossier, a photograph, a number. The photograph is a profile. Damian Voss caught mid-turn, mouth slanted like he's laughing at a joke only God and the devil know. The number below it, $1,500,000. Hi, I say. He's a high-value man, Magda purrs, like she's selling me a handbag. Heart or head, distance only. No close shots. In and out with the tide. Conditions are cute. I prick my finger with the little bone pin tucked in the folder's spine. Blood beads. The paper drinks it. The ink crawls, then settles. A whisper of magic snaking under my skin. Who's the buyer? Anonymous, she says too quickly. You know how the Syndicate inspires privacy. I know how Magda lies, beautifully like calligraphy on a death certificate. Any notes? I fold the dossier. It is heavier now, like guilt, like fate wearing stilettos. Magda's rings clink. He wears a silver rosary. He's fond of churches, confessions without confession booths, an alpha in a cathedral. I huff. Cute theme. Her gaze skates over me, lingering at the base of my throat where a necklace might hide a scar. I don't wear necklaces. I don't wear scars where people can see. Don't underestimate him, Sable, she says, mother soft. Men like Voss don't fall. They are pulled, then I'll cut the rope. Outside, the city is a throat clearing itself. Sirens in the distance, tires hissing on wet streets. The air tastes like rain and copper pennies. By midnight, I am scrubbed of coffee, washed in shadow, and stitched into a black dress so anonymous it feels like a magic trick. The Cathedral Gala is a fundraiser for something earnest. Orphans, restoration, laundering reputations with tax receipts. I slip in as a sommelier with a forged badge and a tray of wine that never touches my mouth. Damian Voss does not drink. He holds a glass like it's a threat and watches the exits as if he has loved and lost them all. He moves like a man who owns time. He stands like a man who has already dug your grave. The silver rosary hangs against a black shirt, a glittering sin. Silver burns wolves, and he wears it anyway. Discipline or penance, I can't tell. New hire? A guard grunts as I pass. Old habit, I say, and keep walking. The cathedral's skeleton arches into a heaven of stained glass. Saints bleed color onto donors and criminals alike. I memorize the spines of Luca Draven's bodyguards. Damian's enforcer moves like a knife disguised as a man. and count the cameras tucked into corners, tiny red eyes winking. Service stairs kiss my heels as I climb. The roof smells like wet stone and angel dust. I assemble the rifle by feel, metal pieces clicking together like a language I trust more than people. Wind, mild, distance, just shy of 100 yards. My pulse, steady enough to build a church on. Below, the gala swells and deflates. Damian stands under a blister of blue glass, the rosary a streak of liquid moon. I lower my cheek to the stock and look through the world's smallest window. Our eyes collide. Everything goes quiet except for the sound of my wolf standing up inside me. The slow, terrible unfolding of something I caged at 14, when Magda taught me how to survive by pretending I was stone. Mate. The scope blurs. My lungs forget how. My finger is made of granite and mercy. Damian tilts his head. His mouth curves. He raises his glass to the skylight like we're already toasting the catastrophe. My phone vibrates in my thigh pocket. I don't look away as I thumb the message open. Magda. Why didn't you fire? Another vibration, immediate, like a heartbeat that found a knife. Magda. Abort or be hunted. Below, Luca leans to murmur in Damian's ear. Damian doesn't turn. He just sets the glass down and mouths, clearly, slowly, directly at my scope. Come down. No smile, no threat, just an invitation to the lion's den and the possibility of not leaving with all my parts. I disassemble the rifle, fingers moving on their own. Barrel, bolt, stock, every click is a betrayal. Of the contract. Of Magda. Of the rules I tattooed on my bones. Never shift, never choose a pack, never fall in love, especially with an alpha. The service stairs are colder than they have any right to be. Each step is a lit match pressed to my skin. At the bottom, the corridor is lit with the kind of bulbs that make everyone look a little sick and very honest. A camera above the kitchen door turns toward me. Of course he's watching. Of course I'm letting him. I push into a room where heat and knife chatter and the hiss of butter smell like my childhood, if my childhood had included Michelin stars and less screaming. Damian Voss is waiting. Up close, he is not pretty. He is precise. Hands made to hold stillness. Eyes the color of a storm that already chose a coastline. The rosary at his throat could blister me if he pressed it to my skin, and for an unholy second I want him to. He gestures at a counterstool. Hungry? I arch a brow. For justice. For steak, he says, and nods at a plate. Rare, the way liars like it, I don't lie. I take the stool, because what is life if not one long, regrettable improv scene? You're trembling. His gaze flicks to my knuckles, pale against the counter's edge. High cholesterol. Fate. He says it like he's tasted the word before, and preferred it aged. I cut into the steak because the only thing more suspicious than a woman with a gun is a woman who refuses free protein. Blood leaks onto porcelain like a little crime scene. My wolf purrs despite herself. Traitor. He slides something across to me. Silver clicks on stone. A rosary, smaller twin to his, beads polished by prayer or compulsion. Go on, he says. Prove you're not what I think you are. The first bead kisses my palm. It sizzles. I let it burn. I do not flinch. Pain is just information. I've been well educated. His respect flickers like a candle in a draft. Impressive. I moisturize. You came to kill me, he says, mild as weather. Don't flatter yourself. I go where the money is, and where is the money? Under your heart. I pop a piece of steak into my mouth and talk around it because manners are for people not debating homicide with their soulmate. I'll need a receipt. His mouth curves. Not a smile. A math problem solved. The door bangs. Luca Draven walks in sideways like he never learned to trust a doorway. His eyes catch on me, then slice to Damian with a question he doesn't ask out loud. What? Damian says without looking. We got a tip, Luca says. An assassin inside. Voice print on the call routes to an encrypted number that pings off a dozen towers, but... He hesitates. I cleaned the audio. Beneath the filter? It sounds like a woman you know. Damian's attention finds my face and rests there. Name. Luca's jaw ticks. Magda. My fork pauses halfway to my mouth. The bite drops back to the plate with a soft, red slap. Magda wouldn't. Magda absolutely would. Funny coincidence, I say lightly, and hand the rosary back to Damian. The burn has left little silver-kissed crescents on my skin. I flex my fingers. They look like they're learning a new alphabet. Damian takes the rosary and, like he can't help himself, reaches, very slow, very deliberate, and brushes his thumb over the fresh marks. A touch so careful it might as well be a prayer. My pulse goes feral. I am offended. Coincidences are lazy lies, he says. So are men who think they're fate. I don't think I'm fate. He leans in just enough that the scent of him, clean smoke, ironed wool, cold night, fills the air between us. I think you're mine. Bold. I smile with all my teeth. I came to kill you. Finish your dinner first. I stand. The room tilts a degree toward him. My wolf claws the inside of my ribs, equal parts desire and survival. I step back. I don't eat where I bury. Then you'll starve. He gestures, almost courteous, toward the service hall. Go. But take a parting gift. The coin he presses into my palm is old, rough-edged, and warm enough to be suspicious. I pocket it without looking like a woman who knows better and still does worse. I turn to go, then glance back. Tell your enforcer to stop staring at my spine like it owes him money. Luca's mouth twitches. Tell your handler to get a better voice filter. We're all so charming I could die. I exit into the corridor and walk until the scent of him thins, and the part of me that howled settles into a low, furious hum. In the alley, rain needles my face. I fish the coin from my pocket. It burns. Not like silver, like witchcraft, heat that tastes of fennel and iron filings, the kind of magic that smiles while it counts your ribs. Of course, I mutter. He gave me a tracker. Back in my safe house, I drop the coin on a ceramic saucer where it singes a tidy crescent. My hacker friend Kit answers my call on the second ring with a mouthful of something crunchy. Tell me you didn't steal from a church, he says. Worse, I say, and tilt the camera so he can see the coin. I accepted a favor, he whistles. Witch-forged. Two-way leash. He tracks you, you ping him back. That's flirting in your world, isn't it? In my world, flirting is a preamble to a felony. I scrub a hand over my face and feel the phantom press of Damian's thumb against my burns. Can you neuter it? I can make it think you're a raccoon in Queens. Keys clatter. Also, Sable, your contract metadata? The buyer's signature is weird. Define weird. Redacted by a sigil, he says, camera now pointed at code that looks like a migraine. And not just any sigil. Magda's the floor slides 3 inches to the left. The saucer cracks under the coin, a soft sound like a heart giving up. I stare, tasting copper. She hired me to kill him, I say. Or she hired you to die trying, Kit says. Exit plan? I look at the wall where my mother's diary sits on a shelf, thin and claw-marked and patient as a wound. The symbol etched on its leather matches the charm at Damian's throat. Same as always, I say. I run toward the thing that wants to eat me and see who bleeds first. Would you take the shot on your fated mate, or run? Tell me in the comments. Chapter 2. You know that moment when you realize the universe is laughing at you? Yeah. Mine came dressed in a $5,000 suit and a silver rosary. 2 nights after I didn't shoot Damian Voss, I sat in a dingy motel eating cold dumplings and reading my mother's claw-marked diary. The last line glowed faintly under the desk lamp. When the Muzzle-Born meets her mate, the leash will burn. Sweet. Real comforting bedtime story, Mom. My phone buzzed. Unknown number, text, dinner, tonight, cathedral kitchen, bring the part of you that trembles. Devi, I stared at it. My brain said, trap. My wolf purred, date. The place was cleaner than last time. New tiles, same tension. Damian waited by the counter, sleeves rolled, hands bare. Not the mob boss tonight. Something worse. Calm. Assassins are punctual, he said. Mob bosses are needy, I shot back, hanging my coat. Is this an interrogation or a cooking class? He gestured to a chair. Neither. You didn't take the money, I shrugged. I like to earn my tips. Earn? His gaze flicked to the faint burns from the rosary still marking my palm. You bleed too easily to pretend you're heartless. Occupational hazard. What's your excuse? Faith. Faith doesn't usually come with bodyguards and money laundering. He smiled a small, dangerous smile. Faith keeps me from killing the council. For now, that word again, council. My stomach tightened. Magda had mentioned them only once, like a bedtime monster. And here stood the monster's favorite son. He poured 2 glasses of wine. You don't drink? I asked. I don't trust what dulls the senses. Good. You'll want to feel every second when I stab you. That sounded rehearsed, he murmured. I'm an assassin. Everything's rehearsal. He slid something small across the table. I braced for a weapon. Instead, a thick file of photos. Wolves, dead ones, throats torn out, chests carved with runes. This was my pack, he said simply. The council called it a purge. I call it a massacre. And you think I'm here for round 2? His eyes met mine. I think you're here because fate is bored. I wanted to laugh. I really did. Instead, I poked at my steak. Do you always feed your enemies before killing them? Only the pretty ones. Flattery's cute. Still planning to shoot me later. Still can't. His tone softened. The bond won't let you. Don't make me laugh. I don't do bonds. He leaned in, scent of smoke and moonlight crawling across the table. Tell that to your wolf. She's pacing. And damn him, he was right. My pulse skipped. My wolf pressed forward like a dog nosing a closed door. I exhaled through my teeth. You really want to die, don't you? He reached for the rosary around his neck, unhooked it, and laid it between us. The metal gleamed wicked and holy. Go on. Prove you can, I didn't move. The rosary pulsed with a faint light, same magic that had burned me before. My skin remembered. He waited, patient, curious, infuriating. Finally, I pushed it back. I don't kill men who flirt with death better than I do. He chuckled once, low, genuine. You came to kill me, yet here we are. Yeah, I said, sharing dinner and trauma like we're on a bad dating app. The door burst open. Luca Draven again, tall, scarred, perpetual migraine. His gun was drawn, voice tight. Alpha, we need to move. Now Damian didn't even look surprised. What happened? Someone tipped the East Side crew. They know an assassin's been sniffing around. They're coming. Damian's gaze flicked to me. And the tipster? Luca hesitated. Voice print was cleaned, but we got partial resonance. He opened a small comm device, hit play. A distorted voice whispered, Target, Damian Voss. Payment confirmed. Moved tonight beneath the static. A faint undertone, a familiar rasp that made my spine go cold. Magda. Luca continued. We traced it to an old burner out of... Damian held up a hand. Enough. He turned back to me, calm as a confession. Seems your employer has other loyalties. I forced a laugh. Told you my job's a mess. He stepped closer. You think I don't recognize the leash they put on you? That contract spell crawling under your skin? It hums when you lie, I froze. You can hear it? Feel it, he said, voice low, like static before a storm. The silence stretched, thick as wet velvet. Then he surprised me again. Go. What? Leave. Before my men arrive. Luca will assume you're a witness, not the assassin. Why let me walk? His smile was almost gentle. Because the next time we meet, I want you to choose me without a gun in your hand. The words hit harder than any bullet. I grabbed my coat. "You're insane." "Probably," he said, "but so are you." Outside, the city hissed with rain. I shoved my hands into my pockets and found the coin Damian had slipped me earlier. It glowed faintly now, the burn deeper. I dropped it in a puddle. The water hissed, steam curling like breath. "Tracker," I muttered. "Of course." Back in my motel room, Kit's face filled my laptop screen again. "You look like you wrestled a confession out of a priest." "Worse," I said. "I had dinner with one." He blinked. "That alpha again?" "Yeah, and my handler just sold me out classic Magda," Kit sighed, "always playing both ends of the grave." I set the burned coin next to the diary and stared at the symbol on its surface. Same as the one inked across the last page of my mother's journal. Coincidence? Fate? Or just another cosmic joke? My wolf stirred, restless. "She's coming," it whispered inside me. "She wants the alpha dead." "Join the club," I said aloud, but my voice wasn't steady. I packed my weapons because when in doubt, I run toward the thing trying to kill me. It's a lifestyle choice. Rain lashed the windows. Somewhere in the city, Magda was dialing another number, and somewhere else, Damian Voss was planning his next move. I couldn't tell if I wanted to shoot him or kiss him, probably both. Would you forgive your target if he turned out to be your mate, or finish the job? Chapter 3. There are few things older than a grudge and more honest than an old diary. Mine belonged to my mother. Leather chewed at the corners, pages clawed as if someone practiced swearing on paper. When I open it, her handwriting leans like it's trying not to cry and not to scream at the same time. She called us Mara. She called our line messy and stubborn and blessed. She wrote warnings in the margins, like someone leaving breadcrumbs for a future that might forget its way home. One night, under the blue hum of my motel lamp, I read the line I'd read twice already, and still felt like I'd been kicked awake by prophecy. "Do not trust the hands that feed you rosaries. A coin that warms is a leash in winter. If the leash sings, burn the rope and run toward the fire." Helpful, very maternal. Kit's face occupied half my screen when I rang him. He lives in a world of electric light and too many cables, and calls his apartment a server farm for the emotionally damaged. He chewed on a toothpick while he ran diagnostics on the coin. "You brought home a souvenir," he said, like I'd come back from a cruise with a tacky keychain instead of demonic hardware. "It burns," I said. "It's a tracker." "That's witch core," he said approvingly. "Two-way. It pings to him, he pings to you. If you move, it sings. If you lie, it hiccups. Someone blessed it with a little loyalty loop." "Can you kill it?" I asked. "Technically, yeah, unless it's been keyed to his scent and a bloodline." He frowned at his screen. "Sable, your coin metadata has a weird signature. It's got Magda's sigil embedded. It's like your handler and your target are playing tag with your ribs." Magda. The woman who'd fed me, who'd taught me to fold myself thin enough to survive. The woman who sold shawls and solace and, apparently, contracts that could torch your future. "You think she set me up?" I asked, though my mouth already knew the answer. "Either that, or she's auditioning for Worst Faithful Aunt of the Year," Kit said. "Run a full trace?" I did. Kit traced the coin through a mess of relays and whispers, and landed on a lab address tucked beneath a luxury spa downtown. He pulled a footprint that smelled like bleach and lies. "Lab?" I said. "Why a lab?" "Because the council likes sterile sins," Kit said. "Because when you want to bind someone's bloodline, you do it in a place that pretends not to be cruel." The pages of my mother's diary map like a jigsaw. One symbol repeated itself, an angular crescent looped in a way that looked almost like a broken rosary. I slid my finger over the ink until it matched the scar on my palm I'd been pretending was from a childhood accident. It wasn't. The next day, Magda called. Her voice was syrup thick. "Sable, darling. We need you to make a friendly visit to an associate. For closure." She said it like closure was a dessert. I told her I was busy. She said she understood. Then she dropped the single word that smelled like a trap and perfume. Compromise. I hung up and baited the trap anyway. I'm an assassin. Curiosity kills, but it also usually pays my rent. The lab was beneath a spa that smelled like eucalyptus and lies. You walk past heated stones and happy people, and then go down again into a place where the lights are harsh and the air tastes antiseptic. Runes glowed in glass panels. Machines hummed like small conspiracies. I moved like I always move, quietly, with the kind of casual cruelty that gets you through locks and bad memories. Behind a frosted door, I found the glass cell. It was beautiful in the way a dentist's office is beautiful. Sterile, ordered, designed around waiting. Etched into the glass were tiny runes that matched the ones in my mother's diary. They twined like vines that wanted to strangle. Inside the cell sat two things I did not expect. A metal contraption I recognized as a binding frame, and a wall of jars with names taped across them. Names that looked like excuses. Names I could have sworn I'd heard whispered in corridors. Council donors, packless bodies, offers made in the dark. And then the worst part, a file labeled Sable Quinn. My name, printed because someone had decided to be tidy about my life. The door clicked behind me. Of course it clicked. Everything in my life has a soundtrack now. The soft, cruel caw of a trap closing. Lights flared. Men in suits, the kind with hands trained to kill and eyes trained to justify, stepped from the shadows with silver nets coiled like sin. They smiled the way men smile before they take what isn't theirs. "Beautiful," a voice said behind me. It was Magda. She stood in the doorway, hands folded like a woman visiting a church. Her face held the soft shape of a woman who'd practiced cruelty on porcelain dolls. "Sable, love. We were wondering when you would arrive." "You set me up," I said. There was no question, only the flat reveal of a knife. Magda's smile gave birth to 100 smaller lies. "I did what was necessary. You were unstable. The council wanted assurance that the Muzzle-Born would not, ruin the balance. You lied." My wolf wanted to eat her voice. My human bones wanted to keep the contract tidy. Ask, watch, if necessary, kill. "I kept you alive," Magda said, soft as cash. "I kept you small for a reason. Power is dangerous. You're dangerous. That is a nice thing to say right before you hand my face to men with nets." She shrugged. "We can't have monsters free without a leash." They stepped forward. The nets unfurled like terrible lace. The silver threads snapped like catgut across muscles. The leader, tall, with a jaw like a guillotine, snapped the binds forward. Heat kissed my limbs. The rune light on the cell shimmered, and the binding frame hummed, hungry for blood. I could have pretended to be surprised. Instead, I smiled, because some people find smiling disarming. I find it useful. And let the wolf purr low enough for only me to hear. The nets tightened. Cold metal kissed my throat. The runes on the glass burned against my skin. Magda watched, serene, like she was reading the last page of a book she wrote. "Why?" I asked her. She tilted her head. "Because someone had to make a choice. Because you were not ready for what they would offer you. Because—" She looked at me with that old, twisted tenderness. "Because loving you would be dangerous for you." I wanted to tell her that loving me was the least of our problems. Loving someone in our world was like handing a loaded gun to a wildfire. The nets tightened and the air rushed. My vision promised fireworks. Then a sound like the breaking of an ocean cut the room open. Damian. He came through the doorway like a storm in tailored shoes. Where he walked, men stumbled. He did not shout. He did not waste breath. He moved through them the way a blade moves through silk, efficient, terrifying. "Back off," he said to my captors, and they looked at him like paper at a bonfire. He reached the cell. For a second he just looked at me the way you look at a dangerous animal you can't quite decide to keep. Then he tore the net with his bare hands. He didn't hesitate. He didn't negotiate. He stood between me and the men who wanted to make me smaller. You should have run, he told me, voice low as gravel. You should have let me die when you had the chance, I wanted to say. My voice came out as a swallowed curse. He killed the machine with 2 strikes that sounded like thunder. Sparks flew like punctuation. Magda's expression fractured, like a vase dropped from a high shelf. Traitor, he said to her. Not loud, not theatrical, precise. She backed away, small as a sin, and fled into the corridor like a coward who is used to doors that open for her. When the last of the men tried to make a move, Damian stepped in front of me. He caught a blade for me like it was nothing, then pinched his own hand, looking at me as if to say, "Did you see what I just did for you?" My wolf screamed for a name. My human mouth was full of questions with no good answers. You did this for me, I said, because facts are a kind of confession, and I was tired of holding mine like currency. He wiped his hand on his pants like it had been something accidental. I don't let the council decide who dies in my city, he said simply, least of all someone who might be my mate. The word hit me like an old photograph. Mate, again. It landed in the room and made everything smell like iron. Your mate? I echoed. There was a little laugh stuck in my teeth that tasted like rust. He shot me a look that was nearly tenderness, almost decent, and then he was not decent at all. He was alpha. He was a man who had buried entire families for less. If that is what you are. I wanted to tell him I wasn't his, that I had never been anyone's, that my heart liked being a solitary blade. Instead, I let the wolf roll forward in my chest and reveal a tooth or two. He did not flinch. We stumbled out of the lab with sirens starting somewhere, distant and slow. Luca kept watch at the perimeter, eyes full of questions he wouldn't ask aloud. Magda's absence felt like a wound that hadn't scabbed yet. On the rooftop, Rene kissed us like an apology. He handed me a tissue like a gentleman smuggling minefields. You could have died, he said. You saved me, I said. It was not a thank you. It was a ledger entry. He watched me the way a man might watch someone play with knives. Why would she do this? Because she's a witch with bad PR, I said. Because Magda is addicted to control. Because the council pays better than therapy. Choose. He looked at me, then at the coin in my palm, then back at my face. We'll find out. We? My laugh had teeth. He nodded. We. My wolf was ecstatic. My human brain ran a panic rock concert. When he stepped closer, just enough that I could smell the cigarette on his breath like a promise of ruin, he said quietly, You're not to run. And if I do? I asked. He smiled in a way that made a promise sound like a threat. I will bring you back. I almost believed him. I almost wanted to be brought back. Would you trust the man who saved you, whose blood binds you, when he could have let you die? Or would you slit his throat and keep moving? Tell me below. Chapter 4. It's funny how survival looks different after someone saves your life. You'd think I'd feel grateful. I mostly felt itchy. Itchy to run. Itchy to punch him. Itchy to figure out why my chest ached every time Damian Voss said the word mate like it was both curse and contract. We holed up in one of his sanctuaries, a crumbling church converted into an armory. Candles flickered across stained glass. Bullets sat beside holy water. If irony had a Pinterest board, it would look like this place. Damian poured whiskey into 2 glasses, passed one to me. You're shaking. Yeah, I said, taking it. The decor's having an identity crisis. I can't tell if I should pray or shoot something. He didn't smile. His eyes tracked me like he was cataloging every reason I might still stab him. Why did Magda want you captured? He asked. Because she's allergic to me being alive. I downed the drink, grimaced. What's your theory? He leaned back against the altar, shadows cutting sharp lines across his face. The council needs leverage. Your leverage. A Muzzle-Born can bend alpha oaths. Cute. I bend things. How empowering, Sable. His voice softened. They'd use you to control packs, Breed loyalty. Breed, I repeated, the word curdling. You mean literally? He didn't answer. I laughed, dark, shaky, humor splintering. So that's my cosmic purpose? To be a magic womb for angry men? His jaw ticked. Not while I breathe. Well, I said, don't stop breathing then. The night stretched long and uneven. I sat cross-legged on the floor, my mother's diary open beside a row of cleaned guns. He watched from a pew, silent, patient. Too patient. Finally I asked, "Why save me, Damian? You don't know me." "I know what I felt when you aimed at me," he said simply. "And what I didn't feel when you didn't shoot." That's the worst pickup line I've ever heard. Not a line. An admission, he rose, came closer, stopped just shy of my space. "I'm not asking for trust. Just truth." "Fine," I said, pulling a dagger from my boot. "Truth it is." He reached into a drawer and pulled out a short blade, its edge humming with faint light. "Blood oath," he said. 1 hour of honesty. No magic, no lies. You always keep one of those handy? Comes in useful when you run a criminal empire. "Right," I said. "I usually just use therapy." He smirked. "Cut first." We sliced our palms. The air tasted metallic. Our blood hissed as it met the steel. The magic pulsed, low, binding, honest. I met his gaze. "I was hired to kill you." "I hired you to find you," he said, like it was a fact, not a bomb. "What?" "I didn't send that contract," he said. "I spread a rumor." "A bait. The council's been losing agents. Someone was killing them, efficiently. I wanted the killer. So I'm the prize in your murder mystery? You're the storm that broke it." "Romantic," I rolled my eyes. "You realize I should kill you just for that metaphor." "You won't." "Oh? You didn't before." My laugh came out half feral. "That's not proof. That's trauma, with good aim." He stepped closer until the heat of him made the magic between us thrum. The scent of gun oil and smoke clung to him. The rosary around his neck caught candlelight, glowed like defiance. "What do you want from me?" I asked. "Truth," I swallowed. "You're my mate." His breath hitched. "Say it again." I looked up. "You're my damned mate, Damian Voss." He exhaled like I'd given him absolution. "Your turn," I said. He brushed his thumb across the cut on my hand. "I knew the moment you looked through me instead of at me." The magic flared. My pulse hammered. The air felt electric, half fight, half confession. "I'm terrified of the part of me that wants you," I whispered. "I'm terrified of what I'll do to keep you." His words landed heavy, real, wrong, and perfect all at once. For a heartbeat we just stood there, close enough that I could see the faint scar near his jaw, the twitch in his fingers like he was holding himself back. If he kissed me now, I wasn't sure if I'd melt or maul him. So I laughed instead. "So, what now? We kiss or commit a felony?" "Both?" he offered. I should have said yes. I should have said no. Before either could happen, the door slammed open. Luca, of course, because the universe hates romantic timing. "Alpha," he barked. "You need to see this." He tossed a tablet on the altar. The screen lit up, a grainy feed from a security camera. Magda stood in a parking garage, shaking hands with a man in a silver-trimmed coat. Counselor Elias Crane, one of the 7 alphas on the ruling council. She handed him a folder, the same vellum contract that once burned my blood. Payment transferred. My death scheduled. Damian's eyes darkened, voice low enough to scrape bone. "She's delivering you tonight." "And you?" I asked. "What's your plan?" He holstered a gun, smooth and final, "to make sure no one ever tries to cage you again." The bond between us pulsed, alive and dangerous. For once I didn't argue. He turned to Luca. "Prep the car." "We move in 10, I looked down at my cut hand, still bleeding faintly into the ancient floorboards, and muttered, "Worst first date ever." Damian's mouth twitched, the ghost of a smile. Stay close, Sable, he said. We're going hunting. And for the first time in my life, I wanted to. Chapter 5. We drove in silence. Damian handled the wheel like it was a weapon. Luca sat shotgun, his jaw locked. I sat in the back, half listening to the hum of the city giving up its secrets to the rain. The night outside was a bruise. Deep, pulsing, beautiful in the wrong way. Every few blocks I caught Damian's eyes in the mirror, cold steel rimmed in stormlight. His voice, when it finally broke the quiet, was all gravel and regret. "She'll be expecting you," he said. "Good," I answered. "I owe her a reunion gift." He didn't smile, neither did I. The spa was all marble and mirrors on top, a wellness retreat for bored rich wives. Underneath it was a meat locker for wolves. Luca hacked the service door, the keycard reader flashing green. The air changed the second we stepped inside. Colder, thinner, soaked in antiseptic and fear. Rows of rooms glowed white, runes shimmered on walls. Somewhere deep below, machines hummed like things that fed on suffering. We moved fast, silent, lethal choreography. I hadn't worked in a team in years. But Damian moved like he'd always known my rhythm. When he stopped, I stopped. When he turned, I was already covering the angle. It was like muscle memory we never built but somehow shared. The elevator took us down 3 levels. The walls pulsed faintly with binding sigils. Damian's hand brushed mine as he reached to disable the wards. Heat flashed through me, too real to ignore. He glanced sideways. "You felt that?" "Yeah," I said, "static shock from hell." "It's the bond. It reacts when danger's close. I think it just reacts when you talk." The elevator doors opened onto hell's waiting room. Glass cells lined both sides of a long corridor. Inside them, wolves, or what was left of them. Their eyes were glazed, their pulses faint. Silver 4 lines snaked into their arms. The scent of damp fur and blood stung my throat. My wolf pressed against my ribs, snarling to be let out. Damian stopped beside one cell. "They're siphoning energy." "Testing control runes." "And using my kind as batteries," I muttered. "Charming." We reached the final chamber. The glass cage. The air here was electric. The runes etched into the walls were thicker, older, and inside the transparent cube stood Magda. She looked annoyingly serene, hands folded, that widow-black dress somehow spotless despite the carnage. "Sweetheart," she greeted, "you brought company." "I brought consequences," I said. Damian moved forward, gun low but ready. "Step away from the control panel," Magda tisked. "You think I'm the villain here. I'm not. I'm the only one trying to keep her alive." "By selling me to the council?" I snapped. Her smile cracked just enough to show teeth. "You were never going to survive them. I made a bargain, your freedom for their restraint. They promised to leave you unbred, unbound, unbred," I repeated, choking on the word. "Like livestock?" She lifted her chin. "Like royalty in a dangerous world." Damian's voice turned lethal. "Release her." "I can't," Magda said. "The contract's alive now." "It's tied to her bloodline. If she doesn't fulfill it, the magic consumes her." "Fulfill it how?" I asked, though I already knew. "Kill him," she said simply, looking at Damian. "The alpha your soul chose against reason." I laughed, dark, sharp, the kind of laugh you give at a funeral when you finally understand who dug the grave. "So that's the grand joke?" I asked. "I either die or kill my mate." Magda's eyes softened, and I hated her for it. "Love is a liability, Sable." "You'll learn." "No," I said, stepping forward. "You'll learn." She raised her hand. The runes ignited, glowing crimson. The air howled. The contract burned under my skin. I could feel it, crawling up my arm like molten ink. Damian caught my wrist. His palm burned against mine. "Fight it," he ordered. "I'm trying," Luca cursed, drawing his gun. "Alpha." But Magda had backup. Council enforcers pouring in from side doors, armed with silver and smugness. Guess we're out of time, Damian muttered, pulling me behind him. What followed wasn't a fight. It was a symphony of violence. Damian moved like wrath in motion. Every shot was precise, every growl pure authority. I covered his blind spots, blades flashing in rhythm with my pulse, the air filled with smoke, screams, and ozone. When one enforcer lunged with a silver chain, Damian blocked with his forearm, snarling. The metal hissed against his skin. I slit the man's throat before he could blink. "Nice teamwork," I said, breathless. "Don't get used to it," he growled back. When the last body hit the floor, the runes on the cage still pulsed. Magda was gone. She'd slipped out through a side hatch like the ghost of regret. But she'd left something behind. The blood ink contract, floating midair, burning bright enough to hurt. It hovered above the altar in the center of the room, words shifting in a language older than sin. Each letter screamed my name. Each line pulsed with Damian's heartbeat. He reached for it. It lashed back, slicing his palm. Blood hit the ground and hissed. "Don't touch it," I shouted. He gave me a hard look. "It's linked to you. If we destroy it, you're free or dead." He smiled grimly. "Worth the risk," Luca swore under his breath. "Boss, that's insane." "Probably," Damian said, stepping closer anyway. "But she's not dying for their leash." I grabbed his wrist. "If this kills you, then you'll live," he said. "That's not a trade I'm taking." We stared at each other, bond humming like a live wire. My wolf was howling, my human heart was breaking, and somewhere deep inside the contract laughed. The flames of it reached out, coiling around our joined hands. For a heartbeat we burned together. Then everything went white. When the light cleared, I was on my knees, coughing smoke. Damian was beside me, bleeding but alive. The contract floated, dimming, not gone, but changing. The runes warped into new shapes, unfamiliar but mine. It wasn't dead, it was waiting. And somewhere in the corridor beyond, I heard Magda's voice echoing softly through the halls. "You can't destroy fate, child. You can only choose how it breaks you." I stood, shaky but smiling like someone who just found a reason to burn the world down. Damian met my eyes. "This isn't over." "No," I said, gripping my dagger. "It's just beginning." Chapter 6. You know that split second before everything collapses? Where your instincts scream run, but your heart whispers, stay. That's where I lived now, between bullet and heartbeat, between choice and curse. The burning in my veins hadn't stopped. The contract was awake. It pulsed with my blood, whispering a single demand. Finish it. Kill him. Problem, I'd already picked a side. And unfortunately, it was his. Damian knelt beside me, blood trickling down his wrist. His breathing was steady, too steady for someone who just tangoed with a magical death sentence. "You're bleeding," I said, voice flat. He gave a small, maddening smirk. "You're burning." Seems we're both having a rough night. "Cute," I muttered, forcing myself upright. My head spun. The runes on the walls pulsed brighter with every beat of my heart. The contract isn't gone. "It's feeding on me," Luca swore under his breath. "Then we destroy it properly." "Burn the whole damn place," I shook my head. "Won't work." "It's tied to blood." To mine, Damian stood, jaw clenched. "Then it ends with me." I stared at him. "Don't you dare pull the noble alpha routine." He stepped closer, his voice low and dangerous. "The bond wants a death, Sable. It was written in your blood. If it takes mine instead, you live." My laugh cracked. "You think I'm letting you martyr yourself for me? I'm the assassin, remember? I'm supposed to be the dramatic one." He reached out, cupped my jaw, thumb tracing the edge of my burn. "You were never the weapon. You were the reason." That's very poetic for a guy bleeding all over the floor. His smile ghosted. "Then let me die with good lines." "No," I said. "We find another way." Kit's voice buzzed through my earpiece, tinny and frantic. You guys might want to not die yet. I found something, make it fast, I hissed. According to the sigil layers, the contract's keyed to your mother's bloodline. The binding runs through her true name, my mother's true name? Yeah, Kit said. Magda forged the contract using her DNA, blood residue from the diary pages. You break it by reclaiming it. Damian frowned. Reclaiming? She has to name herself, Kit said. Her real name. The one the council erased. I reached into my bag and pulled out the claw-marked diary. The pages glowed faintly now, the runes curling like veins. The last entry shimmered, words bleeding through the paper. Mara Voss. The blood they cannot bind. My stomach dropped. Voss? Damian froze. That's my family name. Apparently also mine, I said, flipping the page with shaking fingers. My mother was Luna Mara Voss. She was your father's ally. His eyes widened, something between recognition and heartbreak. My father died protecting her. The room swayed. Then the council didn't just kill your pack, they killed mine. The contract flared, responding to the truth like gasoline to flame. I gritted my teeth and grabbed Damian's hand. Help me! We dragged the remaining artifacts to the center. My mother's diary, open to the last page. Damian's rosary, still slick with blood. The blood oath blade, its edge humming faintly. I stacked them, breath ragged. 3 ties, 1 break. He looked at me. Sable! No! My voice came out hoarse but sure. Not Sable. I lifted my chin, blood dripping down my wrist onto the blade. My name is Sable Mara Voss. The contract screamed, a sound that wasn't sound, ripping through air and bone. The rosary glowed, white fire meeting crimson ink. The diary's pages tore free, spinning like wings. The runes on the walls cracked, spiderwebbing across the glass. Damian stepped in front of me as shards began to fall, his arm wrapping around my waist. Hold on, he shouted. I didn't have to. I was done holding on. I screamed my name again, louder, wilder, and slammed the oath blade through the center of the burning contract. Light exploded. The runes shattered. The magic snapped like a neck. When the glow faded, I was on the floor, gasping. The air smelled of ozone and blood. The contract was ash. My palm was clean. No burn, no mark. I was free. Damian crouched beside me, eyes fierce. You did it, I managed a weak grin. Told you. Drama's my thing. He laughed, low and rough, and brushed a strand of hair from my face. You're impossible. Thank you, I murmured, half dazed. I try. Our moment didn't last. The sound of boots echoed through the corridor. Magda's last contingency. Council enforcers, again. Damian stood, reloading his weapon with a click that sounded like a promise. I rose beside him, twin daggers sliding into my palms. What now? I asked. He smirked. Now we show them what happens when a contract breaks both ways. We fought as one, silver sparks, shattered glass, blood on marble. My wolf sang inside me, fierce and free. When it was over, only silence remained, thick, sacred, final. Magda was gone. Her scent was fading fast, carried by the wind. I turned to Damian, chest heaving. She'll come back. Let her, he said. The next time she'll learn what kind of monsters she made. I looked down at the ash where the contract had burned, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel cursed. I felt dangerous. I felt mine. He stepped close, brushed his forehead to mine. What now, Mara Voss? I smiled. Now? We rebuild, and maybe commit light treason on weekends. His chuckle vibrated against my skin. You'd make a terrible housewife. I'd make an excellent accomplice. He kissed me then, not gentle, not perfect, but real, blood and salt and promise. And for once, I didn't run. So apparently my soulmate and I share a last name. Either fate's a comedian, or I'm in the world's weirdest family reunion. Epilogue. Morning filtered through the cracked cathedral windows, painting him gold. Damian slept, the rosary curled in his fist like he didn't trust peace yet. I sat beside him, coffee gone cold, prophecy scroll open on my lap. The one the courier left at dawn. 7 seals lined the parchment. 6 intact. 1 torn away. When the Muzzle-Born howls, the council falls. I traced the missing seal with my finger and smiled. Guess it's starting. I looked at Damian, his breath slow, steady. My bond hummed, not as a leash but a song. I kissed his temple, whispered, "I'll be your blade and your ruin if you lie to me." Then I turned toward the door. Toward war. If you'd rise beside your mate instead of kneeling before fate, share this with your pack. And if you'd burn the council down with me, hit subscribe. The moon's turning soon, and our war's just begun.